Also in the chat, I went ahead and put the Padlet. I know that Padlet can be overwhelming because it's the whole SST and every single indicator. So if it works for you, that's great, but that is the Padlet for everything. One column is for indicator 1, 2, graduation and dropout. So just focus on that column unless you have other indicators there on there also. Or if you don't like the data that you're seeing in your profile around other indicators, you're welcome to, take a look at that Padlet for everything. But for today, we're just going to focus on indicator 1 and 2, which is graduation and dropout. So my name is Megan Horstmeyer. I am the SST 13 consultant for graduation and transition. So I work with indicators 1, 2, 13, and 14. So today we'll just be talking about 1 and 2. All right, so today our goal is just to do a little overview of what the indicator is, and then any changes that have happened to it. We'll talk about how I can support you or what my role is in this part, and then what the plan is and requirements are for the districts that are going through a required action around indicator 1 and 2. So just to kind of ground us and focus what the purpose is that these indicators are federally mandated. So the federal government tells us what to look at and what data to pull, but they do tie into 2 different plans the state has, and that's our One Child, Our Future, which is all around that one goal of graduation and having successful outcomes after graduation. And then the Each Child Means Each Child, which is the specific to special ed students in the Ohio Office of Exceptional Children's plan to make sure that all students are living a productive life and having competitive employment after high school. So there are some systems of accountability that are built into Ohio Special Education Accountability System. One is around IDEA from 2004. The way that we monitor that and establish are we making progress around special education accountability is through the profiles. So your school district receives a profile and a rating. The profile comes out now, and then again in May is the other indicators. And then I think it ends up to be like September, you get a rating overall, rating your special ed work in your district. So this is a chance to look at our data, correct any data errors, make some improvement plans, and kind of just know where we sit with accountability within special ed. So even if you don't have a little needs or not met action required symbol in your profile, I would highly suggest that you look at all the data and kind of see where your trends are. Look where you might be in year 1 or year 2 of needs to look at, so you can kind of see where you're headed, or where your data might show some areas of improvement, and kind of work on those before you have a required action or an improvement plan. Oops, sorry. Okay, so today what we're talking about, indicator 1 is the number of students, the percentage of students on an IEP that have exited your services or exited high school, that are on an IEP that have left with a regular diploma. So that's indicator 1. And then dropout is the number of students who have dropped out that were marked as having an IEP that dropped out before they graduated. So it's a little bit different. Let's see if the next slide helps us. So it's a little bit different than your cohort graduation. So when you pulled your records, you probably noticed that the students listed on there are not the same as your 2023 graduating cohort. These are students that in 2023 were marked in their special education event page as having graduated or left services. So if you have students that had deferred, or students who took their diploma early, or students who went to a transition program and they left in that year of 2023, they are included in this indicator. So it's a little bit different than the federal graduation rate. It's a little bit different than just your graduation rate that you're looking at. These are all students who left your high school in 2023 on that special ed event page in EMIS that says special ed event, and you'll see the actual wording there in your manual inside of your SPP, inside of your profile. So indicator 1 measures graduation rate. Indicator 2 measures dropout rates. Both use the same denominator, so the students who were leaving during that year. So any changes would affect one, do affect the other. So what are the benchmarks that we're looking for? What are those targets that we're looking for moving forward? So this year's profile, now I know it is 2024, but we are, that it's 2025, but this is the 2024 release. So we are using the 23 graduating class. And our goal was to have, of our special ed students, 66.6% of our students graduate with a regular diploma and less than 18.36% students drop out. So like I said, it's not like they're asking for 100%. It's not that they're asking for, all students. It's that the numbers are above 66 and less than 18 for dropout and graduation, for just your students with disabilities population. And I'll share this PowerPoint will be linked into the Padlet. I think it already is, but if it's not, I will double check. And then if you want to see how those targets were set, or what the process was, you can click on this link and it'll walk you through it. They have changed since last year, and I'll talk about why they changed. It's a good thing. The reason that they changed is because they've kind of modified the data a little bit. So what it means is, if this is a big deal, is what it means to have a regular diploma. I know I've talked to a lot of you about what this regular diploma means. But this is the idea that the students with disabilities took a typical path to graduation. So a pathway that is available to all students. So that means that they did not use their IEP goals to meet curricular requirements. They didn't take the alternate and use that as their graduation, or they weren't exempt. So if they did one of those three things listed there on the screen, that means that they did not graduate as with a regular diploma. They may have still graduated. They still may have taken their diploma and left and gone on to do something else. But as far as the federal government looking at your school, it did not count as a federal graduate. So those are the three reasons that you might have. If you pulled your records from your SPP, you would see that it said like received a certificate. That would mean that you clicked one of those three items. That's what would give them a certificate instead of diploma. Now, Ohio is a one diploma state, so it doesn't affect the student as far as what their diploma looks like or what they can do with that. But it does reflect on your data that they did not receive a regular diploma, just a certificate. So there's no real effect on the student, except for, you can see that in their curriculum. You can see that on their transcript that they would not have received the same diploma. But those are the three ways that they counted as a certificate and not a diploma. So here's how they are calculated. You can kind of see this is what we talked about, is that the top number is the students who have graduated with a regular diploma against those that we thought should have exited that year, based off of your EMIS reporting. And then those that were marked as dropped out, based off of those that you said exited also. So it's totally based off of your EMIS reporting. And inside of your profile, you'll see a list of every SSID number that was shown as the denominator, and you can look through and see how they counted as a dropout, a regular diploma, or a certificate. And I would take a look at that. A lot of times, people who get hit with this indicator, it is a matter of they're not reporting it correctly, or they're not going back and changing it once a student leaves the district, or they report to a different district. They're not going back in with inside the same school year and changing it. So definitely look at that spreadsheet as you're looking through this data and doing a deeper dive, to see, kind of figure out where your students are going and where the issues might be. So here's the change, and I think this is a good change, and we found this will help a lot of people, is that if a student exited and then came back in the same school year, they no longer count. So that's a good thing, because before, if they left and you marked them as a dropout, even if they came back a week later, you still took a hit. So now that is no longer true. If they leave and you put them back in the same school year, they no longer count. So that's why the numbers were adjusted a little bit. But it's, before it didn't matter if there was a dropout code in EMIS, you had a dropout ding against you. So now they have fixed that, which is a good thing, because then now we are reporting if you bring them back or get them back, you get credit for that also. Okay, so the targets and the profile are more than compliance, right? So yes, we have to go through the improvement plans, but to go through the indicator analysis for compliance, but they really are a temperature check of how things are going, right? So you're able to see what your proportionality looks like. You're able to see, are you meeting timelines, what your graduation looks like, how your special ed students are doing in math and reading, all of these things every single year. So it's really a good temperature check. I would have your team look at this information, really digest the information to figure out like what is happening with our students. Are we making progress? How do we compare to other schools? So looking at it as more than just compliance. So yes, if you're here, you probably have a required action. You probably got this email from me that you do have to do an improvement plan, and that's one part of it. But really looking at all of the different profile and the targets to kind of see where are we, and where do we need to improve? What systems do we need to be in place? So I highly suggest that you really dig into that profile. You can read through all of the manuals if you want to understand things better. All of the manuals are linked into the profile. Definitely read Indicator 1 and 2's manual because it walks you step by step of what you have to do and how to get there, where to upload things, what to upload, where to upload. So it is very helpful as we're looking through things, and trying to get through this improvement plan. Sorry, I put the Padlet in the chat one more time for people who weren't able to access it in the beginning, just because that's all of the resources that are available in one place. Okay, so this is the manual that I was referring to. So special ed manual for Indicator 1 and 2. Very important that you are looking at it, reading, downloading it, taking a copy and putting it on your desk. All the timelines are in there. All the links are in there. Your data shows how to access it, where to put things. If you have questions about where to upload, they've got picture by picture and where to go and where to do things. So always check the manual first if you have questions and kind of read through it. If you're confused, then you can always reach out at phone call or email and kind of we can problem solve together. But please check the manual first because they've done a good job of laying it out and putting lots of pictures in there. Okay, so your first step is you've come to this, you've read through your profile, you realize that 1 and or 2 has been flagged, and that you have not met those target goals for graduation and or dropout. So your first goal here is to really put together a team. So you should make sure it's a mix of special ed and gen ed on your team, because a lot of the things that you might put in place won't be just for special ed students, right? So if you're thinking you might put something like industry credentials or pre-apprenticeship in place or work-based learning, those would be available for all students, because that's really what we want to move towards, is that the special ed students don't have their own path, right? They don't have their own things that they're doing, that they are part of the general education population first, and that they're graduating in the same way as everyone else. So if we want them to graduate in the same way as everyone else, then we want to make sure that what we're building during these improvement plans aren't just for special education students. We want someone that is responsible for tracking graduation. So a counselor, an EMIS coordinator, career and college coordinator, whoever it is in your district that has access to all those graduation plans and can track that for us. Administration, because they're the ones that are going to be allocating people and time and money for us to add something new or do something different when they need to be at the table during this. And EMIS personnel, because they know how things get coded, where it gets coded, how things are being transmitted and put in there. So they're a good person to have that knowledge and insight. A transition coordinator, if you have one in your district, that's going to help to figure out what services are already happening. And then any other personnel that might work with graduation to really help us move forward with what we're going to do to help students graduate with a regular diploma. So as you look at these indicators, there are 4 steps that have to happen for everyone that did not meet graduation or dropout requirements inside these indicators. So the first thing that you'll do is you'll do a data appeal and or a upload of policies. So this year's a little bit different. We'll talk about that. Everyone has to upload their policies and procedures around graduation and dropout. That is new this year. And you do that by that February 7th date. That is the same as the data appeal. So if you don't think your data is correct and you're uploading your policies by that February 7th, and we'll talk about those. Next, you do the indicator analysis, which used to be called the self-review summary report, or the SRSR. It is now an indicator analysis. It's the exact same form, it just has a new name. Then you're going to do your improvement plan. And then lastly, in September, you'll upload evidence that this improvement plan has been completed. So if you think your data is wrong, if you're looking at it and you're like, this is not what reported, this is not what happened, you can submit a data appeal. Now, I know some of the indicators, data appeals are common and they work. I have yet to see in the last 2 years a data appeal work for indicator 1 and 2. Most of the time it is a data reporting error. On the school side, and it's something that they have to fix. And so the data is correctly looked at, it's just not reported correctly. And if it's not reported correctly, it's not a data appeal. You have to write a report for data reporting error. So check it out and see why you didn't meet that graduation. If they legit didn't graduate, you don't need to do a data appeal. You still do need to do your uploading of policies and procedures. If the data is wrong because you submitted it, you can do a data appeal in hopes that you just have to do an improvement plan around, uploading data and checking data and data processing. So there are two kind of paths there. We can talk through which one's best for your district, but it's really about why your data looks that way. So do a data dive first and kind of figure out, is it my data that is wrong, or did students really not graduate? So this is new. All students that have not met 1 or 2 have to submit policies, practices, and procedures around graduation and planning. So if you have like an early warning system that's in place, if you have ways of tracking students, when decision rules for getting in and out of certain classes or industry credentials, things like that, you should upload them. If you have the model policies for graduation or career readiness, you can upload those. They're going to look at everyone's and they're going to tell you this is fine, this is great, or this needs improvement. We need policies for this. This could be board policies. This could be administrative guidelines. This could be in a teacher handbook. This could be just a procedure that is written out for the counselors that they follow here and there. So this could look very different. I would upload what you have. I would not create anything new. I would not go and do something because they're going to give you feedback. And once they give you that feedback, you're going to have to create it anyway. So I would give them what you've got, wait for their feedback, and then it becomes part of your improvement plan when you go ahead and write that next step. So I wouldn't stress about this as far as like making one real quick. I would just put in there what you've got and they're going to tell you what else you need to get. But that date is coming up very fast. February 7th is, a week and a half away. So make sure that you're looking at that, gathering that, asking your principals for things like that, because that does need uploaded into the monitoring system before the 7th. All right, so the old SRSO is the next thing. So the first step, this is a 3-part thing. And if you look at the SRSR, it looks exactly like the SRSR. Now it's called the indicator analysis. It's the same thing. It has 3 sections. So section A is for districts that submitted a data reporting error and it was found to be a district data reporting error. So if it's the data that is incorrect, the students did graduate or they didn't drop out, you would do section A. Now the state will come back and after you submit your information and they'll say, yes, it's a data reporting error, just do section A. If it is that you didn't meet the threshold, you will do just section B. So if they come back and say, no, it wasn't data reporting, your graduation rate is below a 66%, then you would go ahead and do section B. Now, if you had the same indicator last year, the exact same, so you have one this year and you have one again, you had one last year, then you just do section C. And section C is telling us how you're going to continue that work, or it's going to show you how your data improved last year. So we know that graduation data is a year behind. So if you did great things last year and it showed a great improvement, in section C, you'll be able to explain that. And then hopefully you'll just continue doing the work in your improvement plan. So if you have the exact same indicator, you just do C. Now, if you have data reporting and you don't meet the threshold, you would need to do A and B. Or if you had 1 last year and you have indicator 2 this year, you would then do B. So only do C if you have the exact same indicator and you're going to continue doing the work. You only do C, so you don't have to do A or B. So depending on where your district falls, you're going to do A, B, or C, or possibly multiple of them if you fall into more than one category. Or if last year you just had 1 and this year you have 1 and 2, you would then do B and C. So the indicator analysis is due by April 4th. A team must do this together. You also need to ensure that you're using the form that comes off of ODE. Don't upload it to a Google Doc or a PDF. Make sure it is in the same format that it's downloaded. Now, if you change it to a Google, change it back because they can only upload the form that is on ODE's site. So just be very careful now that that's there. And then the reflection section there is talking about in previous improvement plans, what have you done? So read through those directions, make sure that a team is in place, and really thinking about what did we do last year and how can we keep doing that, or what can we do to improve our processes now? So when we're looking at that indicator review, you're going to think about gathering all the information. So getting your data together, getting your processes together, getting your counselors together. And then you're going to identify that key area. So what went wrong? Why were students not graduating? Is it attendance? Is it engagement? Is it connectivity? Is it coursework? Is it Algebra 1 scores? What is it that happened there? And then really digging into that root cause of why that happened. So go down to the cause. Don't just go to the symptoms, like students aren't coming to school. Well, that could be a symptom, right? The students aren't there, they can't learn, but really figuring out why they're not coming. Are they not feeling connected? Are they not engaged? Do they not think that there's a hope in graduating? So really thinking through what that next step is. So then after you do that indicator analysis, whatever section you are required to do, you take that root cause, that answer that you have discovered, and you put it into your improvement plan. So you're really thinking about the why. So we've discovered that students aren't passing Algebra 1, so they are not feeling that they can graduate, so they drop out or they don't make it or they have to stay an extra year. So if that's the case, then we kind of really think about, well, what can I do in the improvement plan to change that, to fix that, to re-engage students? If you have just a data reporting error, then I am not involved. I do not need to be involved. If you want me to read yours, I still can read yours. But if you do have just a data reporting error and you're doing just section A and then a plan around data reporting, it is not required that SST has assistance in that. If it is a non-compliance, meaning you did not meet the threshold for graduation and or dropout, then I would need to review your self-review before you write your improvement plan, or review your indicator analysis before you write your improvement plan. You do have to have a root cause analysis. You do have to review policies and procedures and fix them if the state says that they need to be more. You do have to have training. Now, the training can be the training that I've got 2 dates on here if people want to come to the training from me. Or if there's another region or another group that does training around graduation that matches what you're doing better. If you're thinking that it needs to be more PBIS focused or engagement focused and you're doing a training around that, those are fine too. But I do offer 2 dates that would count for those trainings. You must have short and long-term goals. So short is within the plan, and then long-term is beyond that. How do you want to keep improving? And then if improvement plans are returned for revisions, everybody has to sign again. So just a few things to think about. So improvement plans are due the same day as the indicator analysis. So keep that in mind that April 4th, both are due, but that we have to kind of read through the self-review, the indicator analysis before you do the improvement plan. So don't wait till March 30th to send both of those to me. There's a lot of people who need these things read and a lot of indicators. So make sure that you're like spacing this out and working with your team to get the self-review done so we can kind of look through it and look at your root cause, and then you can start your improvement plan from there. So this is what the improvement plan looks like for this year. Very similar, same thing. The only thing really different is that the policies and procedures is a mandatory activity, and that it does need to be around that indicator. So it's policies and procedures in your building to improve that indicator. So what kind of things could you write into your improvement plan? So I would think about what would help your graduation rate, right? What would help all students graduate with a regular diploma? So some things that people could use. This is a screenshot from the IES practice guide to improve and to reduce dropouts. So monitoring students and proactively intervening when students show early signs of attendance. So having an early warning indicator system in place that when students fail one academic subject, they go into this intervention or they receive this service. When students' attendance hits this area, they get this intense intervention. But being early before they fail a quarter, before something that would be trained that will go onto their transcript occurs. Provide intense individualized support for students who have fallen off track. So this is more than credit recovery, right? We put students in Apex, but what are we really doing to provide intense or any credit recovery program? But what are we doing to provide intense individualized support for students that have fallen off track? So if a student comes behind, what can we do to them to help provide them with additional support, additional interventions, take things off their plate, help them prioritize, get them in career readiness or organizations and programs and credentials and things like that. Another choice would be that students engaging students in different curriculum programs connected to schoolwork with college and career success. So getting them connected to what that would look like outside of high school, get them connected to a job, get them work-based learning, pre-apprenticeships, things like that. And then for schools that have at-risk students, create small personalized communities to facilitate monitoring support. So how are you using your advisory? Are you using that to coach students on, the next steps after life, on graduation requirements? If I walked around your advisories and asked students to explain to me the competency alternatives, could they do that? Do they understand their path to graduation? And is that happening during small community building activities, during like an advisory or a homeroom time? So those would be 4 examples of things that you could write into your plans that would show that you're working towards guiding all students towards graduation. Some other ideas would be to create an early warning system, to increase the number of graduation paths that are available to your students. So bringing in more career tech programs, more credentialings, more apprenticeships, more work-based learning experiences, bringing in more things that students can access and get excited about, and having them understand those as early as 8th and 9th grade, so that they don't feel that there's no hope once they, don't pass Algebra 1 or ELA 2, or they start to get behind in credit. So they understand that there are still lots of paths and that it's worth to continue even if they're not being successful in their academics. That there are other ways, other careers that we can help prepare them for, and give them experience in and connect them within our community. You could create an audit of programs and accessibility to all students. See, do you have special ed students in all of your programs? Are they accessing your CCP programs? Are they accessing your CTE programs? Are they accessing your early release, right? Or are you cutting kids out of those programs because they are, credit deficient? And if they are credit deficient, is it because they're not receiving the supports that they need? Could you strengthen your MTSS system, right? So catching kids early that if they're not reading on grade level or not providing that they need additional support, could you do something to have another additional literacy class or additional support bell for students that not discounting them because they're on an IEP, that they have access to the same interventions? Or do you need to create an internal monitoring system where someone's checking what's happening in EMIS and how IRCs are getting reported, or someone's going into ODEX and checking up on dropouts and things like that after the fact? So if it's just the internal monitoring system, checks and balances of data, if you feel like it's a data reporting error and not a program issue. So just some ideas just to kind of give you of what could happen, what you could write about in your improvement plan, really based off of what your root cause says. So after you do the indicator analysis and look through that root cause, say, okay, this is what's happening. How could we, break into that? How could we fix that? And that's where your improvement plan ideas come from. Here's what the improvement plan looks like for this year. So you can kind of see that those policies and procedures is a little more robust this year. And then there's those LEAs. Like, you're going to look at it first, and then they're going to give you suggestions, have you fix it. They're going to make you send them back in, and then also some activities. And one of these activities needs to be training. So thinking through what you can do there. Everybody signs it, treasurer, superintendent, me, and then someone from your team, to really kind of solidify that this is going to happen and by when. Everything has to be done by September 19th. So February 7th, you're putting your policies, procedures, and a data review into the monitoring device system. Then April 4th, you're putting in your improvement plan and your analysis. think that's April 5th. I gotta look, but April 4th or 5th. And then September 19th, you're putting in your systematic evidence. So this is what you're gonna do on February 4th, or I'm sorry, on April 4th. And then by September 19th, you're putting in what you absolutely did, showing proof that it happened, sign-in sheets, PowerPoints that you've trained and done everything you need to do. This is the app that you're doing it. So if you've gotten in to see your SPP data, you've seen the app that says special ed profile. This is where you're going to submit everything. That has not changed. And I can walk you through that, but there are pictures in the manual of exactly how to do that. So if you need to see that, there are screenshots all the way through the monitoring system of how to submit all of these things into that monitoring system. Just some tips, the special ed monitoring, you have to go into survey. It doesn't look exactly right. So I'd use those pictures because it really is kind of weird where you upload things, but once you get in there and play around with it, you can kind of see that. But there's like a survey, and then you hit questions, and then you can upload things. The department can't take Google Docs, so everything needs to be downloaded into Word or PDFs. They can see that on your sign-ins and your PowerPoints and your systems that you build. And then they can't be renamed once they're uploaded, so make sure that you're naming them prior to uploading. Here's all the contacts for our region. So my name's the first name on the right-hand side, and then Shauna will be the one approving all of your plans. So if you have any questions specific to either one of us, you can email both of us or one of us, and we are very quick to get back to you, hopefully. So I know she does a couple days. Hopefully I can get back to you soon too. Right now it'll be within a day, but once we get closer to the profiles, everyone starts sending us stuff. So get things in early, I would say, but it's not that it's a complicated process, but there are several steps. So really thinking through how you can get your team together and get these things done as soon as you hear back from your profile about your procedures that you're going to upload in February. So you have my email. You all got an email from me. So you have my email. My cell phone number is on all my emails. So please reach out to me if you have questions or if you're going through things and you need help. I'll upload this as some on-demand help. And then I've got 2 dates for the training if you'd like to come to our training. And then I'm always here for phone calls, emails, Zooms that we can get together quick and look through your improvement plan. So there are the 2 dates that I'm going to do. Registration is not up yet, but if you want to mark your calendar, April 2nd in the morning is at the Hamilton County ESC, and then April 10th in the afternoon is virtual. So I'll make sure this PowerPoint is in the Padlet also, but if you want to plan on at least sending a few people to one of those 2 trainings, that would be wonderful, just to get that training date solidified and ready to go. But 2 options, 1 in person and 1 virtual. Again, please make sure that you're reading that manual, referring to that manual. It does walk you through step-by-step things. It can be a little confusing, so if you have questions, please reach out. There's my email, and then my numbers and everything are in all of my emails. So if you have any questions, please reach out, follow up. I can always Zoom with your team or come out to your school if that's easiest, to make sure that everything is in place and working. But if you have had the same indicator last year, it is a little bit easier because it's just that section C. All right, so I will stop the recording.